One thing I wanted to do this year was watch more movies. And because last year I barely watched anything, I don't know why. Like, I couldn't make a list of films that were my top 10 of the year, which is something I used to do every single year. But this year, well, last year was such a struggle. It was because of all the shit that went on personally during that year that I just didn't really feel like wanting to sit down and watch movies. Even though I kept buying them, they just kept stacking and stacking and stacking. But this year, obviously, because of my current work situation, that situation being I currently do not work, which I'm hoping will change very soon, I have managed to get the chance to sit down and watch some of the movies that I may not have seen before, or ones that have in the collection that I wanted to rewatch, or some that I've gone back and rewatched. And I know a lot of people do their like weekly what I've watched, like viewing on physical media. Now, I watched a couple of films on streaming. I watched Abigail, which I thought was a lot of fun. I watched Renfield, which was okay. It was all right. And the one that I really actually kind of enjoyed was Borderlands. I watched it not expecting it to be a fully fledged adaptation of the video game, because as a video game adaptation, it's awful. But as a throwback to like 1980s, like mid-budget sci-fi movies like Ice Pirates and Battle Beyond the Stars and Space Hunter, I enjoyed the hell out of it. But those were the only 3 films that I watched on streaming. Everything else that I've watched has been on physical, because I've been going through my collection and picking up some stuff that I haven't seen yet, or and watching some stuff that I may not have seen for a long time. Two of these actually are films that I hadn't seen for a very, very long time. So I'm going to kick off the first one that I hadn't seen for a long time, and I watched this on Blu-ray, is Force 10 from Navarone, which is a late entry into the Men on a Mission World War II adventure movie. I think the only other one that came out around the same time as this was The Eagle Has Landed with Michael Caine and Robert Duvall, which is I enjoy it. I think it's a decent little movie. It's a decent little war movie about a group of Germans who are sent undercover to the UK to assassinate Winston Churchill. Michael Caine plays the leader of the Nazis. So this one is sort of like around the same time as this. I think there was like 3. There was 3 Hollywood movies that were the sort of the ends of that sort of period of World War II war movies. So there was that one, the Eagle Has Landed, Force 10 from Navarone, and I think around about 1983 was Eye of the Needle with Donald Sutherland, who also stars in The Eagle Has Landed. But this Force 10 from Navarone is based on the novel by Alistair MacLean, and it is a somewhat sequel to The Guns of Navarone, the one from the mid-60s with David Niven and Gregory Peck. Great movie. Fantastic movie. Kind of reminds me of Roger Corman's The Secret Invasion as well, because it's set in Greece, and yeah, it's a decent. It's a great movie. Force 10 from Navarone is also fun. There's problems with it, mainly being that there are 2 characters in it that don't necessarily have anything to do. The Barbara Bach's character, she's in it 1 minute, she's gone the next, and just like doesn't really add anything to the movie. Like I noticed this, and this is nothing against female actresses at all, but a lot of World War II movies, especially the big Hollywood ones, I mean, Where Eagles Dare does the same thing. They introduce a female character to the proceedings. In the case of Where Eagles Dare, I think it was Ingrid Pitt, which just complicates things even more, and it becomes sort of a burden to the plot. I mean, the same thing happens here, and in another film actually, which I watched yesterday, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. But Force 10 from Navarone, it's enjoyable. Like I said, it does have issues. It has quite a lot of issues. The other issue was that they have Carl Weathers in the film, and he has nothing to do. He's Carl Weathers. You've got Apollo Creed in your movie, and you've got nothing for him to do because of the colour of his skin. He can't pass as a Nazi, so he has to hide all the time, which doesn't make sense. There's just a waste of a character, and there's no need for him to be in it. Even though Carl Weathers is fantastic, R.I.P. Carl Weathers. But yeah, the film struggles with finding things to do with other characters. Edward Fox's character is the explosives expert. He's the one who's going to give them the explosives to blow up the dam. Robert Shaw and Harrison Ford are great. This was, I believe, Robert Shaw's last but one film. He died during the making of a film called something like Volcano Express or something like that. It was him and Lee Marvin, which is like an action movie on a train. From what I'm aware, I've not seen it myself, but sad because Robert Shaw was fantastic in this movie. Harrison Ford clearly hired for this off the back of Star Wars, because this is 1978. Star Wars came out the year before, massive, huge hit. It was only, 3 years, maybe 2 years later that Raiders of the Lost Ark comes out, and obviously makes Harrison Ford top tier badass actor. But as World War II adventure movies go, it's fun. It's all right. It's good. I enjoyed it. 126 minutes long, directed by Guy Hamilton, who is more well known for more well known for directing a lot of the James Bond movies, especially the Roger Moore ones. Started as a assistant director on films like The Third Man, which I also watched, but I watched that. I didn't watch that on physical. The Third Man, by the way, fantastic movie. First time watch for me for that. Loved every second of that movie. There is a bit in the middle where it's a little bit dull, but as a British film noir set in Vienna post World War II, so bombed out Vienna. The cinematography in that movie is absolutely insane. So yeah, it's directed by Guy Hamilton, produced by Oliver A. Unger, and screenplay by Robin Chapman. Screen story by Carl Foreman, who is a name that I am aware of. Yeah, I mean, it was in a 2 for 15 from HMV on the Indicator label. I think it was 2 for 15 in HMV, or I might have got this on a 3 for 20 from Powerhouse's actual website. But I mean, if you like World War II movies, I highly recommend checking it out because it is pretty good. Then another film off the Indicator label is a film that I had never seen. Sort of a war film, more of a military film, I guess. From 1978, again, another film from 1978, same year as Force 10 from Navarone. This is a film that stars Charlton Heston, David Carradine, Stacey Keach, and Ronnie Cox. It is called Grey Lady Down. It is a submarine rescue mission about a nuclear submarine that is on its way to port when it gets hit by a big shipping ship. I think that's what they're called, shipping ships. Whose radar had just died, so they were unaware that there was this submarine that had surfaced, and it finds that the submarine then sinks to the bottom of the ocean, and time is running out for them to get rescued. So the Navy have a experimental, what they call experimental sub, that, what was it, DSRV, I think it's called the DSRV, deep submersible rescue vehicle, I think they call it, which was experimental in 1978. Apparently it's now a common, it was, when the film was made, it was a common real machine that they used to rescue people stuck in submarines. But to be able to get the DSRV to link up with the submarine, they need a smaller submarine piloted by David Carradine to clear the top of the sub, the escape hatch of the sub, so they can get the DSRV to connect up with the sub. As because of the crash, there are there's like some seismic activity. I don't know what it's from. I'm not 100% sure. That has covered the top of the submarine with rocks and gravel and dirt and sand and everything. And the only way to clear it is to get David Carradine and Ned Beatty to go down in their tiny little sub with a brush, a hoover, basically, and clear it out. I enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this. Great, tense, just a lot of fun. Really, really enjoyed this one. Worth checking out. It is 111 minutes, again from 1978. Directed by David Green and starring Charlton Heston, David Carradine, Stacey Keach, Ned Beatty, Ronnie Cox, Stephen McHattie, and Rosemary Forsyth, who I think is in it for all of about 5 seconds. But yeah, Grey Lady Down, good sub-thriller. Kind of reminded me of the film Marooned from the late 60s with Gene Hackman and... what's his name? Again, I think it's Gary Cooper. It might not be Gary Cooper. No, it's not Gary Cooper. It's the one from... I said his name earlier. Can't remember now. He's the one from Guns of Navarone, which again is like another rescue mission sort of thing, but that's set in space. So Grey Lady Down, really enjoyed. Definitely worth checking this one out. Then I watched a 1960s Technicolor CinemaScope Irwin Allen movie called The Lost World. It's not great. It's not great. It's one of the like lower end monster movie things. It says it's got something to do with Ray Harryhausen, I believe. Can't remember now. But it was produced, directed and written by Irwin Allen, who was responsible for a lot of the disastery type of films like the Towering Inferno, but also well known for creating shows like Time Tunnel and most famously, I think it was Voyage Beneath the Sea from the late 60s. Like the CinemaScope cinematography is really, really nice. It's like gorgeously shot, and the set design is fantastic. But they couldn't afford stop motion animation to have real dinosaurs fight each other, so they just glued a load of combs and stuff to iguanas and little baby crocodiles and made them fight each other. Not exactly the most humane way of filming things, but yeah, I wasn't that fussed on this. Good cast in it. David Hedison from Live and Let Die, Michael Rennie from Day the Earth Stood Still, Jill St. John, she was pucker, and Claude Rains as well, classic, well-known early film actor Claude Rains from Casablanca. Like, I love these type of movies. I love like the Doug McClure type of ones as well, like The Day the Earth, The Land That Time Forgot, and what's the one of Atlantis? Not Raiders of Atlantis. That's an Italian movie. I can't remember. I've got a Doug McClure box set somewhere. But yeah, so it was all right. I enjoyed some of it. I prefer Journey to the Centre of the Earth from around the same time, 1960, I think that one was as well, with James Mason and Pat Boone, which is just a fantastic film, which I grew up with. So yeah, wasn't really fussed on The Lost World. I'll keep it in the collection because it's worth returning to. This was a first time watch, by the way. So yeah, wasn't overly fussed on that one. Another first time watch is a film that I'd never seen, and it's been on my shelf for a while. I've shown this in I showed this in a What the Fuck Did I Buy from months and months and months ago, and it is the Radiance release of George Armitage's Miami Blues, starring Alec Baldwin, Fred Ward, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Man, this film is awesome. This film is so good. It is a incredibly darkly comic sort of neo-noir crime detective thing. It's so bizarre, but just wow, this film is fantastic. Jennifer Jason Leigh in this is incredible, as is Alec Baldwin. I think this was Alec Baldwin's second major lead role. I think it was this, and I think he said, what was it, Married to the Mob? I think it was Married to the Mob he was in prior to this. But Miami Blues, man, this is so good. He plays a sociopath, criminal kind of guy who gets hold of detective's badge and gun, the detective being played by Fred Ward, and pretends to go around becoming doing cop work, so going up to criminals and robbing shit from them, but using the disguise as a cop. It's so good. If you haven't seen this, I highly recommend checking Miami Blues out. Fan-fucking-tastic movie from the director of Grosse Pointe Blank as well. So George Armitage actually just recently passed away, which really sucks because his stuff is awesome. But yeah, loved it. It's directed by George Armitage and adapted from celebrated noir author Charles Wilford's novel Miami Blues for the screen. What else is there to say about this film? I loved this movie. This movie was fantastic. In fact, what did I give it? I gave it 4 on Letterboxd, which I might actually change because now I'm thinking about it, about how much I really fucking enjoyed this film. It was so good. Yeah, Miami Blues, cracking movie. This is what I thought was a rewatch, but it turns out that I'd only ever seen the first 5 minutes of this film, which is unbelievable because this film has been on TV so often over the years that I can't believe that I never watched it. But I watched this the other night, and it turns out that it is actually a complete first-time watch, and it's The Dam Busters. This film is so good. Seriously, this film is so good. 126 minutes, I watched it all in one sitting, and I don't tend to watch films in one sitting if I put them on really, really late. So I put this on about 2 o'clock in the morning, it finished gone 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was still buzzing because of how much I enjoyed the fuck out of this movie. This film is so damn good. In fact, I was reading about it, and you can clearly see the influence that it had on George Lucas, especially when it came to filming the dogfights and inside the cockpits and the talking of the pilots to one another, they call them leader and stuff like that. It just, wow, this film is amazing. The music is obviously iconic, but when it was made in what, 1954. The visual effects that they did for this, in black and white photography, they used some fantastic miniature work, just unbelievable. For 1954, the miniature work is so fucking good on this film. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I will be watching it again. I am so glad that I picked it up on a whim in HMV in the 2 for 15. Brand new restoration on this as well, which looks fantastic. But I think this was 2018 release. On Letterboxd, I did actually give this a 5-star rating, and I'm sticking with it. God damn, The Dam Busters is a good movie. Another first-time watch is another film a lot like Dam Busters. In fact, it's very much like Dam Busters, that the plot almost seems exactly the same. And it's 633 Squadron, starring Cliff Robertson and George Chakiris. I wasn't really that fussed on this film. I know a lot of people really enjoy 633 Squadron because it's kind of like the boys' own adventure of pilots and fighter jets and stuff. But the plot is almost exactly the same as the Dam Busters, made, 10 years later? 9 years later. So it's based on a novel by Frederick E. Smith. But I'm also assuming that they based the novel on the script for the Dam Busters. Because whereas the Dam Busters spends the entire film training up to the actual mission to drop the bouncing bombs and destroy the dams, they spend the entire film with it. Well, the first 60 minutes or so, first hour training to do their mission, and then they do the mission. It's like, I don't know. There's something about this film. I don't know. I love World War II films, as you can clearly see, because I've watched so many of them recently. But yeah, there's something about this one that just really kind of annoyed me. It's filmed in Panavision. Cliff Robertson is really good in this as well. But yeah, I just wasn't feeling it. But I've had this for years, like years and years and years. I bought this secondhand in a secondhand DVD shop around by me, around where I used to live years ago, and it's always just sat in a box, and I never watched it. So I thought I'll give it a shot. Obviously, I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to get rid of it. I like collecting World War II movies, and so keeping that one. And the last film that I watched last night is this film. It is Ultimo Tren a Katanga, which is actually Dark of the Sun, aka The Mercenaries. Now, this is a Spanish bootleg of a Warner Brothers Archive DVD on-demand release. It's currently not in there because it's in the PlayStation, because I watched it last night. Not really bothered the fact that this is a bootleg. At the time, I didn't realise it was a bootleg until a couple of years back. This film is fucking brutal. Like, horrendously brutal for when it was made. I mean, you see some films like now, then clearly, compared to some films, this is tame. But this is 1968. This was made in 1968 at a time where Hollywood was changing. Obviously, you had things like The Wild Bunch and what was the other one? Bonnie and Clyde. I think The Wild Bunch came after this, actually, which was 1969. But Bonnie and Clyde came before this, and so Hollywood was changing. So the MPAA was sort of allowing more films. Like the Hays Code had finished, and the studio system was on its ass. New Hollywood was coming in with Francis Ford Coppola and who else was there? George Lucas, and like Planet of the Apes came out at the same time as this. But this film, holy crap, this is a film about a mercenary played by Rod Taylor, who is in one of my favourite sci-fi films of all time, and he will always be, for me, he will always be remembered as George from The Time Machine. But in this, he is a fucking asshole. He is a mean son of a bitch in this. He plays opposite Jim Brown, who is, I believe this was Jim Brown's second film, and it was one of the films that he said that he really didn't enjoy making, for the simple reason, because it was, at the time, pretty damn violent and racist. It's still kind of controversial now as well, but also stars Kenneth More and Peter Karsten, a German actor, I think is, and yeah. Oh, and Yvette Mimieux. So this is a really good sort of reunion of the Time Machine cast. Obviously, Rod Taylor, Yvette Mimieux. Yeah, This film's so good, by the way. Absolutely fantastic movie. Brutal, violent, action-packed. The end fight between Peter Carsten and Rod Taylor is just brutal, although I think it's quite cut up. This version's quite cut up, so I don't know if this is the full version of it. This runs at... It doesn't have a runtime on there. But yeah, looking at the back, it's clearly a bootleg. It plays on all regions, but it's in 16:9. Just a great movie. Kind of kickstarted the whole mercenary sort of genre, but also it's a men on the mission movie as well. So it kind of follows on from films like The Dirty Dozen and Kelly's Heroes and stuff like that. Even though those are World War II films, and this is set more in the I suppose when it was made, it was set during that period. Yeah, I think it's set in 1969 or 1967, something like that. I would love to see this get a Blu-ray release in the UK, or maybe even in Germany or something like that, or in America, even just anywhere. But I don't think we will, because of the subject matter is quite brutal. But this film is so good. It's such a great movie, and even though this is a bootleg, I am so glad that I've got it. So yeah, there we go. So those are the 6 films that I've watched. If you want to follow me on Letterboxd, if you're on Letterboxd, I am there under, let me tell you now, I am there under Pedro Monkey or Peter Osmond, either one. I'll link it on this video anyway. And so those are the 6 movies that I've recently watched. I say recently watched, I watched them all over the last 4 days. Currently I am something like 28 movies deep into this year. And I'm really enjoying getting back into watching movies again. And I sit here in my chair, I watch the TV, just watching new movies. Not new movies, but well, yeah, they would be new movies if I've never seen them before. But rewatching older films and watching older films for the first time, specifically things like The Dam Busters and The Third Man and Grey Lady Down, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and even something like Miami Blues, which I think is massively underrated and definitely worth your time. But that's me. That's just the shit that I watched this week. Hope you all enjoyed it. My name is Pedro. This is Pedro's Movie Cavern. And as usual, I'm going to give you a salute. I'm going to throw up the piece. I'm going to tell you, I am out. Cheers. Have a good one.